So the authority says I can't do this without their help or guidance. This has always been I don't know if it was a dream. I think it's just who I am, to live off-grid. Years ago, I had solar panels and I did a lot of what people call now prepping. I had the regular lifestyle. Had a daughter, we homeschooled her, so she had to have a computer. I had a business I ran out of my home. So we had to have electricity. But I had solar panels and a water filtration system. Now, in the back of my mind, I knew I was never ready for SHTF. Stuff hits the fan. But I always like to think I was, thumping my chest. I'm a manly man. I got solar panels and I'm always hoping for that catastrophe. So I could test my preps. See how good I did. Well, I mean, heck, the first time I had to really test my preps, I wasn't even close to being okay. But I was like still cool. I knew everything there is to know. I'm just I was never actually able to really fully engage in what I wanted to do like I can now. But that first time around, just had this blizzard. I don't know if it was actually a blizzard. Let's call it a blizzard. It was like 4-foot snowdrifts. And the electric went out. And we had a kerosene heater as a backup. What we should have done was moved into the kitchen, because we needed just to keep the pipes warm so they wouldn't freeze. And of course, now I don't know why we just didn't let the faucets drip. They would have kept from freezing. I don't know why we didn't do that, but regardless, we didn't. So we had the kerosene heater in the living room, and we're all huddled around this little space heater that I had plugged into the generator. Well, even if the electric would have been out for a few days, we wouldn't have made it. Of course, the kerosene heater would have ran out of kerosene. And then I got the solar panels, and I couldn't wait until the electric went out. And finally they went out. And sure enough, I had to show off that I had electric. So I turned on the porch lights. Everybody else in town didn't. Of course, neighbors came over. How do you have electricity? And I had them all on. The garage, we had a separate garage. And so I see a lot of these preppers on YouTube doing the same thing. They're always talking about how great they are and how they've got everything handled. Well, just the other day, a guy comes on YouTube and he's talking about his anxiety. He's just not got enough time to get everything done. And there's always something else to do. What are you talking about? Well, first of all, if you have anxiety, that's a mental illness. And they have really done a lot of studies on this, that a high carbohydrate diet causes mental illnesses like that, depression, anxiety. Carolyn has social anxiety. It's terrible. Since we started our carnivorous diet, got off carbs, I don't think she's had an episode. So if you got anxiety, you need to go off the carbs. Well, what does preppers tell you to eat? Carbs, rice and beans, carbs. And then you look at his physique, and it's quite obvious that he could do better. I'm not trying to criticize, none of my business. But that's why he's not feeling well, why he's having racing thoughts when he's trying to sleep. Man, I sleep like a baby. I don't have any worries in the world, ever. Even if something dramatic was to happen. And I do think about these things. I don't worry about these things, but I do think about these things. The grid goes down, the economy crashes. Are we okay? I would say we're 80% there. And it would not take much for us to get on to the other 20%. And then I think about my dad. I'm gonna try to condense this story. It's about my dad and his brother, my uncle, his older brother. His older brother had a career in the Navy, primarily in Virginia. And my dad always had a job, but he was always on the farm. I mean, they were all raised on the farm. My dad was raised on the farm longer than my uncle, because shortly after they moved to the farm, my uncle went into the Navy. Well, I think Dad was 8 years behind my uncle, so he stayed on the farm a lot longer. Don't quote me on all the specifics, but Dad, I think, just grew accustomed to not having a lot of things. He told me a story one time that he hated to have to take a bath in the barrel, which makes sense. I can imagine my grandma doing that. They first move onto the farm. They don't have a well yet, so they're collecting rainwater, and all the kids have got to get in the barrel, take a bath one at a time. I can imagine my grandma doing that. And that does toughen you up. Now, today, my dad would not want to live off grid. He's done a lot of almost off-grid stuff. He's burned firewood, lived out on the farm. I mean, he's always had electric, but he knows how to process his own meat. I mean, every year they'd have to process pigs. He's raised cows. So he knows a lot of this stuff. And he's not a big burly man like you would think. You know, these preppers get on YouTube. They're a lot bigger than me. Oh, look at me, I'm a big prepper. I'm just a scrawny old guy, gray hair. I've been rode hard, put away wet, just like the old horses were. You know, I ran my own businesses, was managers of organizations, and the stress nearly killed me. And I show it. But I'm so much more relaxed here. I remember my uncle came home from the Navy one year. And I was always so excited to see Uncle because he was this big burly guy. And of course my dad's a little scrawny guy. And he comes home and they want to walk in the woods. Well, Uncle Bob wants to be like I was with my solar panels. I'm a big tough guy. And he takes his shoes off and starts walking through the woods. Now my dad, much smaller than my uncle, he calls him by his name. I'm not going to call him by his name. Put your blanket shoes on. What are you doing? Well, I was trying to be sneaky. For what? And that's just how Dad would act. He's like, why are you trying to be cool in the woods? There's nobody out here. But he come home one year and he wanted to trap a rabbit. And so he's trying to build this thing and doing this thing and doing this thing. And I'm like watching Uncle Bob. He's really cool, right? And he's frustrated. And Dad comes out and, what you doing, guys? He says, I'm trying to build a rabbit trap. I want to show me how to build one so he can go out in the woods and trap rabbits. And Dad says, oh, give me a minute. And he walks out to the woods, grabs some sticks. Uncle Bob had a pocket knife. Dad doesn't even have a pocket knife. He carves these sticks, and within 10 minutes, he's got a trap. And the next day, he had a rabbit. So my dad lives down in Florida. I'm like, Dad, man, you need to think about being a little bit more prepared, especially with all those hurricanes that come around all the time. I mean, you've been out through how many now? 5, 6, 10? I'm not worried about it. He's always said that, I'm not worried about it. Well, how can you not be worried about it? I've been through 10 of them. What do I need to worry about? Well, you should have a generator for your well. Well, my neighbor's got a generator. What we do is I go around and I rewire everybody's wells. And then we share the generator, and between all of us, we got enough gas to run the wells for a few minutes, get the bathtubs filled up and the buckets and all that. And he's always saying stuff like this. These are not specifics. These are just things I've kind of made up based on some of the conversations we've had. And so he's never worried. He always figures this stuff out. Now, he's not big on relying on people, but he's got a good friend neighbor next to him. And so they share a lot of stuff between them. But he's very independent. As a matter of fact, if he's working on a project and you come over to help him, he's like, leave me alone. He built his house by himself. That's what I did. I built this house by myself. Very independent. Doesn't want anybody to help because help gets in the way. He's never worried. So this prepper, I'm worried at the end of the world. And here we got the guy who literally lives through the end of the world at least once a year and never worries about a thing. So that kind of has rubbed off on me. Now, I'm not near as smart as Dad when it comes to this kind of stuff. I know how to build a rabbit trap. I've built rabbit traps, but I got to have the drawing next to me. But Dad can just do it from holding it up, eyeballing it, cutting a little nick here, a nick there. And that's real talent. And if I ever needed anybody to help me through an SHTF, that's the guy I want. The guy who says, I'm not worried about this stuff. And it seems like every time there's a problem, somehow he gets through it. This guy who tells me he's worried all the time on YouTube tells me also that you got to have people around you. You got to have good friends and you can trust that can help you because you're not an expert in everything. Boy, I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. We've lived here, what, almost 3 years now? I've not needed anybody's help. It's just me and Carolyn. No one has helped me. Built the house by myself, hooked up the solar panels on by myself, the water system, repaired the well by myself. I didn't know anything about wells. Now, I know during SHTF you're not going to have internet to look this stuff up, but that's what I've tried to do is learn the things I need if SHTF ever happens. So what I need, food, water, shelter, and defense. That's all you need. Anything else beyond that is a luxury. So I got the shelter, got enough firewood to heat it. We've tested ourselves 2 summers or 3 summers now, 2 summers, without air conditioner. We can do that because we're underneath the trees. But there are a few luxury items that, of course, we'd like to have. Generator. Obviously, we won't be able to have the generator, but we use the generator now. It's kind of a luxury item. If SHTF were to happen, we'd have to get rid of the generator because there wouldn't be any propane to run it, and we'd have to run it off solar. That means we have to get rid of the refrigerator, which is fine because we can can our food. One of the things when we were building this house was lighting, how we were going to do lighting. And my plan was to go to Walmart into the automotive section and buy those LED lights. We did that with the camper when we built the camper, and I was going to do it here, but it was getting close to this big winter storm that we were going to have when I got everything finished except for the lighting. And I thought, how important is it? I talked myself out of it, and I bought myself a little lantern, battery operated lantern like this. And this thing works really well. During the summer, we hardly use it, so I only got to charge it, I don't know, every month or so. All the electric that we have to use is free from the solar panels. Well, after the first year, the first one we bought, the plug-in that you plug into the back, the wire, it didn't work anymore. So I bought a second one. After a year, same thing happened to it. Just that plug-in doesn't work anymore. I just got tired of buying new ones. They're $20 a piece, and if SHTF ever were to happen, I wouldn't have a light. So I bought a third one just to have, and today I decided, well, it's already broke. I'm going to fix it. Now, when you walk into the project like this, the authorities will tell you, the preppers, you know, these are the experts, the authorities, will tell you you have to have someone who knows how to do electric and wiring so they can fix it for you. I don't know what your job is, but this is what the prepper tells me. Well, I don't have anybody to fix it. It's just me. I start tearing it apart, and Carolyn instantly takes it out of my hands, and she starts disassembling it. That was great, because now I don't have to do that. So I find the wires that I need. Now this is just a USB cord that has went bad. I cut off the end, and I stripped the red wire and the black wire, and then I went to the light, stripped the red wire and the black wire, and I started to twist them together, and I couldn't because my fingers were just not coordinated enough to do it. So again, Carolyn rips it out of my hands, and within a couple minutes she had all the wires braided together and taped. Reassembled it, charged it, and it's back to working. But according to the preppers, you're not supposed to know how to do that. You're supposed to have somebody in your group, and they call them a mag. I don't know what that means, but they call them a mag. So you're supposed to have somebody in your mag that knows how to do that. So by the time you have all these people that knows how to do all the things you need to do, build stuff, work on your mechanic stuff, work on your well, water, you're going to have a whole society of people, 200, 300,000 people that you're in charge of because you're the leader of the mag, I guess. Or you can just focus on the 4 things that I talk about: food, water, shelter, and defense. So if you'll click this up next box, it'll take you to a video what I was talking about. They won't let you have water from your private well. So I hope I can inspire you to be your own mag so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.